Hi, so this week is going to be about the throat chakra, so the Vishuddhi Chakra, the colour blue, the element of space. It's all about communication, sound, hearing, so it's around the ears, nose, throat and neck, and it relates to our thyroid gland. So if this is out of balance, quite often we have the inability to express ourselves. We have lack of stillness and blocked creativity. And quite often this can come along with sore throats, tinnitus, hearing issues, asthma. So that can be something that we notice if this chakra is out of balance. But if it's in balance, you're quite often a very good communicator. You can hold a space, you can hold a conversation, you can be very expressive and very good at giving clarity of what you believe in. So the sincerity comes across when this is in balance. So we're going to work with this chakra today. So we're going to be doing lots of head movements, lots of flexion, extension, lateral rotation, and we'll include those in the poses. So what I'd like you to do is come to a seat. I'm going to open the class with an opening chant. Because it's the throat chakra, that sound of a chant will help strengthen the vocal cords. And then at the end of the practice, I'll close with a closing chant, also with 3 ohms. So find a seated position, place the hands on top of the thighs, so you can either be cross-legged, legs out in front or on the knees. I'm sitting up on a seating block, so that will really help support that pelvis and help not hurt that lower back. If you're finding your lower back is arching, prop yourself up a little bit. It gives you a taller spine. And I want you to think of a long line from the crown of the head down to the pubic bone, stacking up those 7 chakras so we get a good place for energy to flow, a space for our bodies to move that energy through. Take a close of the eyes, take a roll of the shoulders up towards the ears, back down towards the hips. Take a nice long deep breath in. Long sigh out through the mouth. Another long deep breath in. Long sigh out through the mouth. Make that out breath quite raspy. Another breath in. Long breath out. Then close the mouth if you're happy to do so and breathe in and out through the nose, making that slight restriction at the back of the throat so we have a slight audible sound, maybe of an ocean. Some people say like the sound of Darth Vader. Just take a few moments to think of where your body is in space, the proprioception of how you feel you're sat, how you're holding your alignment, just checking in with how that body feels. Maybe just witnessing from the outside, looking back at the body as you see yourself sat in this seated position. While you take those mental scans, I'm going to open up with the opening chants. Feel free to join in if you wish, or just listen to the sound of my voice as that sound resonates through your body. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Savinyam Karavavahai Tejasvinam Vadidamastu Marvirvish Avahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Keep breathing that breath in and out through the nose if you can, connecting that Ujjayi breath. Opening the eyes, bringing your left hand tented fingers to the floor. Bring your right hand up and over to take the left side of the head and draw that head towards that left shoulder. Then lift that left hand up away from the floor, and then stretch through that left side of the neck. Keep encouraging your right ear towards that right shoulder a little more. Release then that left hand back to the floor, lift up the head, bring the right hand back to the floor, take it to the other side. Raise the left hand, take it to the right side of the head, draw that head over, maybe lift up that right hand. Feel the stretch through the fingers all the way up, creating that space between the ear and the neck. Then bring back to center. Release both hands down to the thighs. Take a roll of the shoulders, bring them up to the ears, then squeeze them back to the hips. Create that space through the neck. Take a turn of the head to the left. Bring that head back through center. Take a turn of the head to the right. Bring it back to center. Take a gaze up to the ceiling. Stretch that neck. Then bring that chin in towards the chest. Stretch the back side of the neck. Bring that head back to center. Just bring that chin back in towards the chest. Roll the head to the left. Bring it back through center. Roll the head to the right. Choice if you wish to take full circles with the head, feel free to do so. Or just doing these half circles definitely works for me, rather than full circles. And then bring that head back into the center, raise the gaze. So keeping the hands on the thighs, we're going to do what we call lion's breath. We take a long breath in through the nose. Then as we breathe out, we stick the tongue out and breathe a long sigh out through the mouth. We're going to do that 5 times. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. 3 more times. In. In. One more time. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Bring in through the nose. And connect back with that Ujjayi breath, slight restriction at the back of the throat, in and out through the nose. That slight audible sound to you. Then bring yourself onto your hands and knees. Bring yourself into a cat-cow position. And if you have books or blocks, just bring that block just underneath the head. Knees hip width apart. Reach the hands forward, bring the forehead onto that block, keeping that head in line with the spine. So the hips are slightly lifted, the hands are forward, supported the head. And just hold it here for a couple of breaths. Just notice how that neck feels. Turn the head to the right, bringing the left temple onto the block, and just let yourself settle here for a couple of breaths. Turn the head to the opposite direction, right temple onto the block, and just hold it here for a couple of breaths. And the head back to the center, forehead onto the block. And then come up onto the hands and knees. Make sure the block is just in between those hands as we're going to thread the needle, bringing the head onto that block. Reach the right hand up and out to the side. Then thread that right hand in between the left hand and the left knee. Bring the right ear to the block. Keep the left hand down for support, the right forearm to help with the twist. Try and keep both knees grounded, supported into the mat. Try not to let the weight push over too much onto that right side, and then rotate that waist a little more by pushing into that left hand and right forearm. One more breath here, noticing how that neck feels. Then push into that left hand, raise the right hand back up to the ceiling and twist to the right. Bring that right hand down to the floor. Then reach the left hand to the ceiling, chest to the left. Thread the left hand in between the right hand and the right knee. Bringing your left ear this time to the block. Neutralizing the weight into both knees. Push into that right hand. Push into that left forearm. Rotate through the waist. Turn through the shoulders. Feel how that neck feels on this side. Then push into that right hand, lift the left hand to the ceiling, gaze up to that thumb. Bring that left hand down to meet the right, remove the block from the side, reach the hands a little further forward, bring that chin down towards the floor and stretch through that throat, stretch through the armpits, try not to let the shoulders creep up to the ears. Then release those hips down to the mat. Bring the arms out in front of you, elbows under the shoulders. Keeping that chest lifted, pushing those pubic bones into the mat. Take the chin into the chest, stretch through the back of the neck. Then lift that gaze, send it up to the ceiling. Bring that head back to the center. And we'll take 5 lion's breaths here. Breathe in through the nose. Out through the mouth, tongue sticking out. Breathe in through the nose. And out. 3 more times. Bring it back then to that Ujjayi breath. In through the nose and out through the nose, slight restriction at the back of that throat. Take a turn of the head to the left. Bring it back through center. Take a turn of the head to the right. Back through center. Release the hands by the side of the chest. Tuck under the toes. Bring the chest back towards those thighs. Push into those hands and feet. Lift up the hips. Squeeze or paddle those feet into our first downward facing dog of the day. Then coming down onto your knees. Untuck the toes. Bring the sit bones to the heels. Reach the arms up and over the head. Interlace the fingers at the top. Bring the hands down by the back of the neck. Lift up through the chest, but try not to flare the ribs. Keep the tailbone tucked under. Push the head into the hands and resist with the hands. Strengthening the back of the neck. Breathe easy breaths here. In through the nose, out through the nose. Ujjayi breath, that slight restriction at that throat. Remembering the colour of that chakra is blue, and thinking about space. Create that space space between the shoulders and the ears. Create that space through the throat. Keep that core center engaged. Try not to let those ribs flare. And then release those hands. Bring them down by the sides of the body and then onto the hips. Lift the hips over the knees. Roll the shoulders back. Bring the hands to the base of the spine. Tuck the tailbone under. Push the hips forward. Raise the chest. Raise the gaze. Stretch the neck. Maybe gaze back to the back of the room. Take it to wherever feels comfortable for that neck. Try and push those tailbones down. Keep that lower back supported. A little thoracic extension in the center of the spine, in between those shoulder blades. And then lift the head, lift the gaze. Bring the sit bones back towards the heels. Tuck the chin in. Bring the tops of the head onto the mat. Hands down by the sides of the body. Keep that Ujjayi breath, that slight restriction at the back of the throat. And then come up onto the hands and knees. Step both feet back, plank. Paddle the feet as you lift the hips back to your down dog. Have a nod and a shake of the head. Then start to walk the feet towards the front of the mat. Bending the knees as much as you need to. Bring those chests to sit on top of the thighs. Bring the hands behind the heels and scrunch that chin into the chest. Tuck that forehead into just below those knees. Bend the knees nice and deeply to get that crunch of the body in towards those thighs. And then slowly bring the hands slowly up the back of the legs as you start to uncurl that spine. Tracing the hands at the back of the thighs. And as you come to standing, roll the shoulders back, lift up the gaze, stretch through that chin. And then bring that chin back into the chest. Start to curl down through the shoulders. Bring those hands to trace the back of the legs. Starting to let those hands come back down towards the heels. And that chin tuck in, that forehead coming into those shins. That chest sitting over those thighs. And again, slowly curl up. Trace those hands up the back of the legs as you start to come up to standing. Roll the shoulders back, lift up the gaze, send it up to the ceiling. Squeeze the shoulder blades together and then bring yourself into a nice tall standing position, feet hip width apart. Raise the hands up to the ceiling. Take an interlace of the fingers. Bring the hands behind the back of the neck. Push the head into the hands and lift the chest. Squeeze the shoulders together. Elbows out to the side. Tuck the tailbone under. Correct that posture at the lower part of the body. Try not to flare those ribs. Really pushing that head into the hands, but resist with the hands. Feel that activation through the shoulders, through the neck. And then release those hands down by the sides of the body. Take a couple of moments in standing. Roll the shoulders. Send them back towards those hips. Close the eyes. Feel that stability through the feet. Your next breath in, raise those hands up towards the ceiling, and as you breathe out, bend the knees, fold over those hips, bring the chest to the thighs, hands towards the mat or the shins. Next breath in, come up to a half lift, and then as you breathe out, plant the hands down, step back to a plank. Come down then onto the knees, bring your right foot through in between the hands. Raise the arms up to the ceiling, interlace the fingers, bring them behind the back of the neck. Try not to flare the ribs, but lift the chest. thoracic extension of the spine. Protect that lower back. Push into the feet. Push the head into the hands. Resist with the hands. Activate those shoulders. Activate the muscles in those necks. Then release the hands down either side of that right foot. Step that right knee back. Bring your left foot through in between the hands. Raise the arms up towards the ceiling. Interlace the fingers. Bring the hands behind the back of the neck. Push the head into the hands and resist with the hands. Tuck the tailbone under. Stretch through the front side hip flexor. Lift the chest. Keep the ribs from flaring. Engage the center of the body. Raise that gaze. Strengthen that neck. And then release those hands down either side of that left foot. Bring that left knee back to meet the right. Step both feet back to a plank. Lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. Gazing back towards the toes first of all. Then lifting the gaze up towards the knees. Then lift that gaze up towards the hips. Feel that stretch through the back of the neck. Relax the shoulders. Soften the elbows. Push into the hands. Push into those feet. Then coming down onto the knees. Bring your right foot to the outside of the right hand. And just sink the hips low. Try and keep that head in line with the spine here. Pushing into the hands. Activate through those arms. Push the chest into that space between the shoulder blades. Keep that long line from the crown of the head down to the tailbone. Bring that chin in towards the chest. Gaze back towards that left knee. Then raise that gaze up towards the ceiling. Stretching through the throat. Tuck the back toes under, bring the gaze back forward and lift that back knee. Push that left heel back, head in line with the spine. Have an idea of where that head feels in space, having a good alignment. Just imagining how your own personal body looks, that proprioception of space. Then drop down with that left knee. Untuck those left toes. Bring your right knee back to meet the left. Tuck both sets of toes under, back into plank. Lift the hips, squeeze the heels back. Taking a gaze back towards the toes, then up towards the knees, then up towards the hips. Then release out that tension. Give that head a nod and a shake. Come back down onto the knees. Step your left foot to the outside of the left hand. Sink the hips low. Head in line with the spine. Back toes untucked. Push the hands into the mat. Chest cavity back into the body. Sink that right hip a little lower. Then gaze down towards that right knee, tucking that chin in towards the chest. Notice how it feels down the back or the front of the body. Then raise that gaze up towards the ceiling, stretching the front of the throat. Tuck the back toes under, bring the gaze back forward, lift the back knee, and have the head in line with that spine. Support through the hands, push into the whole of that left foot, the toes of the back foot. Then coming down onto the knees, bring your left knee back to meet the right. Reach the hands a little further forward. Let that chin come down to the floor, keeping the sit bones nice and high. Gazing forward, contracting the back of the neck, stretching that front side throat. Then bring those hips down towards the floor. Bring the elbows underneath the shoulders. Into Sphinx pose. Relax the shoulders down. As you breathe in, lift up the chin, gaze up to the ceiling. As you breathe out, bring that chin in towards the chest. Bring the head back to the center. Gaze towards the right side of the room. Take that rotation through the upper part of the spine. Back to the center. Keep pushing those hips down. Gaze to the left. Bring that head back to the center. We're taking 5 lion breaths here. Breathe in. Another breath in. Stick the tongue out. Breathe out. 3 more. Bring that chest down, bring the hands by the sides of the chest, tuck under the toes, bring the chest back towards those thighs. Push into the hands and feet as you lift up the hips. Squeeze those heels back. Maybe have a paddle, nod and shake of the head. And then squeeze the heels back towards the floor. Come down onto the knees. Bring the sit bones back to the heels and untuck the toes. So reaching up with your left hand, bring that left hand behind the back of the neck. Reach forward with your right hand, turn the palm, bring it behind the back, either finding clothing or the interlace of the fingers at the back of the body. So we're just stretching these shoulders. So this is how it will look if you've got your fingers interlaced at the back or holding on, or you may just have found the clothing. It just helps stretch those shoulders out. It helps create some space around that neck, around those ears. So try and encourage your left elbow back as much as you can. Feel the stretch down those triceps, and try and encourage that right shoulder back a little bit. Try not to arch that lower back. Draw the belly back towards the spine. Long breaths in, long breaths out. Connecting that Ujjayi breath. Maybe closing the eyes. Thinking of that space in that throat chakra, that colour blue. Creating that warmth through the internal body with that Ujjayi breath. And holding it, one more breath here. Then release the arms, give the arms a shake, and then we'll take that through the other side. So lifting this time your right hand, bring the right hand to the back of the neck, reaching out forward with the left hand, turn the palm, bring the back of the hand onto the back, and then find the fingertips if you can, or take a hold of clothing. Try not to arch too much in that lower back or flare the ribs. Draw the belly back to the spine. Thinking about that right shoulder being encouraged back, the right elbow taken back out of the eye gaze. Feel that stretch through the tricep on the right side, the underside of the upper arm. Close the eyes. Think of that colour blue in that space. Each inhale, maybe feel that colour blue expanding in that throat chakra. And on the out breath, feel that colour blue dispersing. Then release those hands. Give those elbows, arms, forearms, upper arms, shoulders and hands a shake. Then coming back into a plank position, stepping both feet back, lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back, gazing back towards the toes, then back towards the knees, then up towards the hips. Then bring your head into a little release of tension, giving that head a nod, giving that head a shake. Then coming down onto your knees, bring your right knee to the heel of the right hand and your left foot to the back of the mat. Take a hold of your right foot and turn it inwardly underneath the body. Bring your left hand back to the floor. Lift up the chest. Take 5 lion's breaths here. Breathe in. Come down onto the forearms and just let that head hang. Release the tension through the neck. Just relaxing that hip of the left a little closer towards that right heel. Remembering that right leg's turn just to whatever feels comfortable for the knee on that right side, whatever that right hip allows. One more breath here, relaxing through the neck. Then coming back up onto those hands, tucking that back toes under, lifting the back knee. Bring your right knee back to meet your left, and then just take a rock of the hips from side to side. Bring your left knee then into the heel of the left hand, your right toes to the back of the mat. Take a hold of your left foot, turn it internally, then bring your right hand back down and sink your right hip towards that left foot. 5 lion's breaths here. Breathe in. Come down onto the forearms. Just let the head hang in the center of the shoulders and just let go of anything you're holding in the back of that neck. Connect back with that Ujjayi breath, that slight audible sound in the back of the throat, breathing in and out through the nose. Coming back up onto the hands, tuck the back toes under, lift up with the back knee, send the left foot back to meet the right, this time staying in plank position for a couple of breaths. Push into those hands, drop the knees if you need to, if you're unhappy with that full plank. And then lift those hips, squeeze those heels back, gaze towards the toes, the knees or the hips. Get that stretch in the back of the neck. Then start to walk the feet towards the center of the mat, the hands back towards the feet. Take a bend into the knees, come up onto the toes. Bring the arms up to shoulder height. Just find that balance here. Bring the hands behind you, interlace the fingers, push the hands down, lift up the chest, send the gaze forward. 5 lion's breaths here. Release the hands down, step both feet back to a plank position. Lift up the hips, squeeze those heels back. Have a nod and shake of the head. Release any tension through that neck. Come forward to a plank. Drop down the knees, untuck the toes, drop down the hips, but keep the chest lifted. Gaze up towards the ceiling, stretch the front of that neck. Bring that then gaze down towards the floor, tuck the chin to the chest. Bring that head back to center. Take a turn of the head to the right, back through center. Take a turn of the head to the left, back into center, right ear to right shoulder, back to the center, left ear to left shoulder. Bring that head back to the center, bring the chest back to the thighs, and find child's pose, knees wide, chest sinking to the floor, forehead to the mat. Then keeping that forehead on the mat, thread your right hand underneath the left armpit and stretch that deltoid muscle on that right side. Forehead's to the floor, gaze down, and we're stretching that right shoulder across the top and the side of that deltoid muscle. Then reach forward with that right hand, still connecting that Ujjayi breath, that slight audible sound in the back of the throat. Then bring that left hand underneath that right armpit, bring that left shoulder to the floor, the forehead to the mat, the gaze to the mat. And just push that chest over that left arm, encouraging some stretch through those deltoid muscles on the left side. Then reach that left hand back forward in front of you, back to meet the right. And then come up onto the knees. Knees come underneath the hips. Reach the hands further forward. Bring the chest down towards the mat, chin to the mat. Stretching through those shoulders, lifting up through those hips. And then bring the hips down, bring the elbows underneath those shoulders into that Sphinx pose. Push into the toes, push into the pubic bone. Take the space to that lower back, but extend that thoracic spine, that spine in between the shoulder blades. Take a breath in. Lion's breath, 5. Breathe in. Bring the chest down towards the floor. Hands by the sides of the chest, tuck under the toes, chest back towards the thighs. Push into the hands and feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Gaze back towards the toes, the knees or the hips. Then coming down onto your knees, sit bones towards the heels. Reach up with the arms, take an interlace of the fingers, bring the hands behind the back of the head. Push the head into the hands, resist with the hands, tuck the tailbone down, squeeze the ribs and hips towards each other, but lift up through that chest. Release the hands down to the hips. Hips come over the knees, shoulders over the hips. Bring the hands to the base of the spine, little fingers to touch. Draw the elbows together. Push the hips forward. Raise up the ribs, the chest. The gaze up to the ceiling or to the back of the room. Stretching that neck. Just allowing gravity to take a hold of the head if you're happy to do so. Then lift up through the shoulders, lift up through the head. Bring the sit bones back to the heels, the hands by the sides of the body, top of the head on the floor. Keep that chin tucked into the chest. Take a hold of the heels, then lift those sit bones up high, keeping the top of the head grounded to the floor, just stretching and lengthening that spine, contracting through that throat. One more breath here. Then release those bums back to the mat. Bring the shoulders back over the hips. Find yourself a comfortable seated position. This is where we're going to finish our practice. We're going to close our practice with a closing chant and 3 Ums. So find that comfortable seat, either elevating the hips on a block, crossing the legs, maybe the opposite way to what you're used to crossing them, maybe the opposite foot in front of the other. Bring those hands onto the thighs. Take a roll of the shoulders up towards the ears, back down towards the hips. Grow tall through the spine, tall through the crown. Take a close of the eyes. Closing the practice with 3 Ums first, and then that closing chant. If you wish to join in, feel free to do so. But if you wish just to take the sound of my voice, allow it to reverberate throughout the body, take a breath in. Purnamidam Purna Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamivavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Take a breath in, bring the hands up and over the head, bring the palms together at the top. Bring the hands then to the chest, soft gaze down towards the floor. Take a few moments here just to consolidate the practice. Notice how that neck and throat, ears and nose feel. As we've been doing those lion's breaths, strengthening the muscles of the throat. Bringing your breath back to your own natural, automatic breath. Have peace in your thoughts, have peace in your words, have peace in your hearts. From my heart to yours, Namaste.